Right. And, women have a real problem these days with pelvic pain. There's a lot of women who are suffering from bladder issues and fibroids, like in the uterus is overproducing these extra uterine materials, endometriosis, all these and reproductive issues, all these things. I think they're being caused by glyphosate, and there's increasing numbers of women are complaining about this kind of pain in the pelvis. And sometimes they take out the uterus and the pain doesn't go away. Then they realize it's actually the bladder. I mean, it's like those organs, their membranes are also get leaky, just like the gut gets leaky. So glyphosate causes a leaky gut barrier, but it also causes leaky barriers in both the uterus and in the bladder to cause health issues there that can be very painful. So there's all these weird problems that women are complaining about, and the doctors don't understand where it's coming from. It's a mysterious disease, and they don't know how to treat it. And the women are suffering greatly, and they're not getting treated. Then they don't know how to fix it. And the way to fix it is to switch to an organic diet. And there's actually testimony from someone. There was a guy who contacted me a few years back, said his wife was suffering from this interstitial cystitis, and a lot of pain, and she just couldn't fix it. And then I told him, put her on an organic diet. And he got back to me a year later, said it totally worked. It was a miracle. He has an article where he talks about this, my wife, and she was really, her problems were completely fixed by just going to an organic diet.
I'm wondering if a lot of the benefits people are getting is from getting less glyphosate.
I've wondered that myself, and I think that may be true, because obviously animals are one step away from plants, right? The plants are getting the glyphosate directly, and the animals are getting it indirectly. And if you're eating grass-fed beef, it's probably going to be very low in glyphosate. You hope that the grass is not being exposed to glyphosate. GMO foods are resistant to glyphosate, but many of the non-GMO foods are sprayed with glyphosate right before harvest as a desiccant to kill the plant. The intent is to kill the plant, make it go to seed, increase the yield, maybe chasing a frost, trying to beat the frost. So there's maybe compelling reasons to do it, but they end up with lots of glyphosate in the food. And that's why we have an epidemic in celiac disease, because wheat is one of those foods that's sprayed right before harvest as a desiccant. Yeah, well, it is gluten, but the gluten is contaminated with glyphosate, and also the microbes that break down the gluten, the same ones that break down the milk, the casein in milk, they also break down the gluten. They have these specialized enzymes that deal with this proline. Proline is a very difficult amino acid to break apart from the chain, and the lactobacillus have these specialized enzymes that break it apart. So the lactobacillus gets killed off by glyphosate, and then the enzymes aren't sufficient to break down the protein, so the proteins stick around, and they don't get digested. And you have the leaky gut that glyphosate also sets up. So the proteins get out into circulation, and the immune cells get really angry when they see these wayward gluten proteins in the wrong place. They develop antibodies, and then those antibodies attack your own tissues through something called molecular mimicry. So you end up attacking certain enzymes that cause you to have the symptoms of gluten intolerance and celiac disease.